Good morning. Good afternoon. Hi, Dan.
How you doing, Deidre?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk to you. This is a hot topic out in the world today. So, thank you for taking the time to share with everybody your expertise.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here and look forward to our discussion for sure.
Yay! Awesome. So, we have a stigma around what's traditionally called contract work. And we're going to get into all these terms here in a minute. But that's what really prompted me to put this LinkedIn Live together with you, Dan, is that, gosh, I mean, it's actually nostalgic for me because it's been about 8 years ago now that when you were over at Mass Mutual, that the CISO over there contacted us for contract support, and I wasn't doing contract support back then for this very reason, which was there was this stigma that people don't want to be contractors and contractors aren't treated well. And well, fast forward, we solved that. We made programs, and I just feel like there aren't enough people that know about the successful stories of contract and SOW, and so I wanted yourself as an enterprise security leader who has had a lot of experience with this, and certainly with us, to talk about the differences and how to make the choices and what have you. So you're aware of the stigma, I know, and have worked around it yourself and been very successful getting high profile projects done with what you would traditionally call SOW contract work, correct?
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So I think the work that we did at Mass Mutual was really interesting because we literally took a model that didn't exist, I'd say, or at least not aware that it existed. And on its face, we knew that we had a need for staffing positions that we couldn't staff ourselves. We couldn't find the talent. We know that especially some of the entry-level jobs, but also the mid-level jobs, those are difficult to retain staff and talent because one, the development generally drives up their value. The salaries that they then can they go seek because they're not necessarily getting that opportunity and upward mobility that they're ultimately seeking in a role. And on the talent side, that's really challenging. On the business side, the thing that made it unique, that set us up for success at Mass Mutual, was the ability to establish a tranche or bucket of expenditure that we can use in support of that statement of work. And some of the things that we were able to do was find talent in entry-level positions, have them be a part of this statement of work. We embed them in the teams at Mass Mutual's Security Operations Center, right? We had different locations, 24/7 shifts that we needed to staff. And we're able to find talent that some were very entry, some were mid-level, to slide in the roles. And as they gained experience, as they became aware of the environment where they were in, and their value as an analyst improved, we're able to invest in them in training. We're able to take a look at the salary that they came in and the contracted amounts they were getting paid hourly and adjust those dynamically over certain time periods. And we're able to have successful development conversations with them and keep them in a role and then ultimately transition them into full-time roles. And I think a few things have to click to make that work. One, finding great talent that fits the organization and what we're trying to do. But also on the business side, you have to kind of understand the dynamics of hiring and retaining talent. And you have to understand over a period of time, their value is going to increase and it's going to surpass that of what you hire them 6 months later. The value of an entry-level position in an enterprise with enterprise tooling, that rate just is something that they can go off and find another employer, if not at 6 months, definitely at a year or at 18 months. So being able to have that off, being able to develop and get them to a comfortable salary where they're feeling a part of the team and where they're developed kind of on job, clicked all the cylinders for us. So I think there was very unique. I think in other organizations where we're in build mode, and at EDB, certainly over the last 2 years, we're in build mode here. There are efforts that require additional expansion of staff. And some of those staff do require transitioning into full-time roles. And we don't always, just given year-over-year budgets, have the ability to add staff, but we can add and allocate expenditure towards statement of work. And where I think statement of work is important in this context is we're able to set defined goals that we all agree are the outcomes that we need. We're able to find the great talent that you're able to source and be a part of that process of bringing them in the door and finding people that we want to work with, and not necessarily just assigned a resource that has a block of time in their schedule. And the outcomes we're able to kind of get to is finding people that mesh well with the teams, that understand the type of business that we're in, and ultimately are able to help deliver on those goals. And where we're successful and where everything clicks along the way, we're able to make that transition from a statement of work kind of contractor to a full-time when it makes sense. So yeah, it's been very helpful for us in a number of areas and different companies in my career.
Yeah. I love that you broke that down. So yeah, the work we did at MassMutual was more contract work, longer term, train and develop. We were training people. You were utilizing, because you can't train when you hire contractors. You can't give them the type of training, right? You can't legally do that. And so yeah, that was so fun. And here we are at EDB, where it's SOW work, very big projects, high visibility projects, senior individuals, both on the tech side and the GRC side, right? We've done both of those projects, and converting where it makes sense. And when it doesn't, these professionals have options that we help them with, and we're all in sync and we're all in tune on timing and
soft landing. Yeah.
Not only do you get to select, because CyberSN and our whole matching works so quickly, that you get to choose, and then we all stay in tune. And if it's a conversion, great. If it's not, we're ahead of it. And so we're able to turn people that have never done SOW work, as I think almost everybody you've gotten from us has never done that type of work before. But because, to your point, the projects are so detailed that we work out, people like, that's a great project. It's going to be at least a year. I'm game for that. I like that idea. And they're going to treat me nicely too. And that's just, what happens. And I just want to say, with a lot of FTEs, they're working on projects that aren't exciting constantly and aren't measurable. And there's hard to feel professional efficacy. And so what I'm finding is professionals are loving it. Yeah, it's no problem. And then another one for a year, and I actually can feel completion, and I'm doing something really valuable. So that's what I'm hearing on and seeing and watching, and why I'm advocating for more of it. I think what it comes down to is just there's more work put into hiring these types of professionals than an FTE a lot of places, because the planning of an FTE is like 3 months out.
Right? It's interesting. I think, traditional, I'm going to bring a consultant in just to do some work, say over a quarter. I think folks feel that somewhat disposable. And on our side, I mean, the effectiveness of someone coming into an org, being able to orient and then deliver a quarter really isn't appropriate for most types of projects or work activities, like assessments and things. Maybe that works out. I think one of the stigmas, especially with, hey, I'm going to become a contractor, is this a long-time gig? What's the stability of my role? Are they just going to get rid of me if things go sideways? And while there's always some business constraints and things that organizations are working through, some of the things that aren't movable are objectives for the year, how those align to board objectives that are being reported on, all the work that we've done over the last 2 years ends up on one or more reports that go up to the audit committee and boards here at EDB. So it's one of those things that there's stability in the work that we need to get done because we need to get it done, right? There's drivers, whether it's customer orientation or just reducing risk within the enterprise. So yeah, I do think it ends up being a safe space for folks that are full-time today, want to transition to something new. I think it's one of those things as well. If we get towards the end of a contract, we're very transparent and we plan that out so we can find the next role for an individual. And I haven't had a time where someone wasn't being transitioned into a full-time role where we had a problem on the exit of the individual. We were able to have that kind of open kind of dialogue, and everyone kept it professional. So
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
definitely worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's no other way to be in the business of. I can't. It's hard enough to play capitalism than to play that part of it. So I love hearing that, and yes, that is the expectation. I can't help but come back to, and I think it's important to point this out a bit here. One of the things I didn't know in the industry, again, having not gotten into it for any other reason than being asked to do something different, is that you really get to select. It's a big deal, and we're, as humans, working together is our biggest problem. The only problem we really have. It's not tech, other than we're not automated and we're all in alert hell and vulnerability hell. But other than that, that's not our problem, tech. It's people and personalities and emotions and life challenges and all these things that happen. And to be able to pick your talent, I didn't realize that wasn't common in working with another vendor, let's say. So I would imagine that's been game changing to everything we've done together. I didn't even get that until you told me earlier.
Yeah. The common thread over the last 8 years, and we worked across 3 companies through that period of time. I think the human aspect of finding talent is so critical to the outcomes. Understanding how they integrate with the immediate team is what most folks kind of understand. But having worked at companies with different kind of internal structures, different personalities, and different business objectives, you really do need to find talent that is going to fit well and navigate the type of org you're in. If you're in a financial services organization like MassMutual and others, navigating that culture and the constructs that have been built within the organization requires a certain skill set. If you're in a pre-IPO company on the other side of that spectrum, and depending on the product mix even, between, are you pure SaaS or are you actually delivering software and hardware? Those types of challenges are different, and the type of people you're hiring, the code bases, the engineering talent, how they develop, are all headwinds that in information security we have to navigate. And being able to find talent that aligns to that and isn't just assigned as we have so-and-so, they have a block of time for 6 weeks coming up, and we'll put them on the project for you. There's a difference in that catering to needs, and ultimately, replacing an individual, even if it's as early as a third through the project, even if it's a month, you're losing steam on a timeline that's condensed already. And the thing that you need to worry least about is, are they going to be the right fit for the organization? Because the most important part isn't, do they have the technical skills? Yes, they need the skills to understand the basis of the role, but someone can have the best technical background and still not be able to navigate the way that the organization needs them to navigate and still get to a poor outcome. So being able to be a part of that talent selection process, I think, has been invaluable.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. It's so interesting that I didn't know that all these years. And it also makes me think of, so when all of you are hearing that, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I got to screen resumes and, I got to go talk to 50 people or 100 people. No, no, no. Write down, I mean, it's 5 or less and you're done. And you've made your personality match as much as the job match, and we're off to the races. And I was just thinking to myself, I don't think you've ever had to replace anybody, which is also, like you said, you especially in these year-long high-profile projects, somebody's gone at 6 months, big problem. And so a match to me isn't just, the doing the job and the personality, it's also the money. Meaning, I've heard a lot of horror stories of people starting contract jobs because they needed to do the work. They need work, they needed money, but as soon as an offer came along that paid them what they really make, they're gone. And so for us, it's like, no, that being a contractor or for SOW work with CyberSN doesn't mean you make less money. And it doesn't mean you don't have benefits. Absolutely not. We have benefits, and they aren't taking a pay cut to do the work. So I also didn't realize that was happening to the level it is out there, making that match with 5 or less professionals, but the match that keeps them there a year or longer if you want.
Yeah, yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially when it comes to finding talent, you're not shy to ask folks in full-time roles, who may be seeking something different. They may not be getting, the intrinsic reward they need out of their role, and are just up for something different. And the way you all take care of folks makes them feel that there is a safety net there, and I think is definitely part of what makes it special. So.
Yeah. I mean, time is money. I think of you all. I think I put out a meme one time, and I remember sharing it with you, Dan. Like, I'm security professionals becoming recruiters. I mean, looking at resumes for hours on hours, and we have no time for that, everybody. That's not what we're talking about when we say you get to pick your talent. It's whether it's FTE or SOW or contract with CyberSN, it's 5 or less people, and you're filling your roles. So don't think you have to dive into that. Dan, when the last 2 years has been really challenging on all of us from the perspective of having to shift a lot of budget focus, CapEx, OpEx, and yet there's all these big profile projects. How were, anything to share with your peers and others that are coming up in the ranks about how you're able to sell the business, to get things done? Is there, you've done a lot with using SOW. You've moved huge projects, and I don't expect you to be able to share things you can't share. Is there anything there that can help others be able to do the same, be able to sell that up?
Yeah. It's a good one, and you're definitely going to get the honest response because I'm going to just be off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know. Sprung that one on you. I was just thinking about how many people are learning how to sell up or how to get, projects done with other people's budgets, other teams' budgets even.
Yeah, well, it comes down to why you're in the role in the first place. And I think you have to have the right rapport with your leadership, who you report into, and the leadership that ultimately makes the decisions on investment. And when we look at the types of projects that we are able to get done and are getting done now, they fell into 2 buckets, and it's how I think about really a modern CISO role anyway these days. It's how are we supporting upside growth, and how are we investing to enable the business? I work for a product company. How are we enabling the business to be able to sell product and grow the business, which at the end of the day opens up more budget for you? But how do you align those goals with your own goals for the year to be able to get the improvements you need, while also being able to help and be a part of that expansion of the business? And we're undertaking FedRAMP, working with a number of different partners to accelerate that journey. But at the end of the day, there's still investment that's needed in the core organization, things that we can't sub out. And knowing that is going to bring a windfall for the organization, it makes those conversations a little bit easier, knowing that, hey, we can get this significant placement in the market and drive product sales in an industry that we would be normally locked out on. It's going to take a while. We have investment to kind of get there. How do you accomplish your goals within that? And you have to be reasonable to kind of understand you're not going to get everything you wanted to get done, but going in that direction is just going to be a good windfall for everyone. The other bucket outside of supporting upside growth is managing your downside risk. And depending upon where you are as an organization, if you're early stage startup, pre-IPO, and there's a world of difference between that time period, or if you're an established public company, all of those markers in that company's and your program's journey is from an information security perspective is going to be different. Your needs are going to be different. And certainly early stage where you're cresting, you're getting high amounts of revenue, you're expanding like crazy. There comes a point in time where there's going to be a significant amount of risk that has built up that a CISO is then hired to resolve. And that's generally when senior leaders are brought in with a specialty and a focus on improving the program. And it's at that point in time that you really have to catalyze what are the immediate things we need to get done? What are the meat and potatoes of a program that have to be considered and invested in? And at times that shouldn't be, depending upon the leadership and the rapport you've built, shouldn't be a heavy lift. But it's also one of those things that's kind of an initial investment. There's a bubble of resourcing that's needed. And that's what makes the statement of work model kind of work, because you don't need to just add to the bottom line of that set of employees that you have. You have to keep your team small. The budgets are limited. But you do need to make a big splash to start to put some guardrails, controls in place, the infrastructure services, to at least know that that next stage of growth isn't going to be impacted by a significant incident, or at least limit the likelihood of that from occurring. Now, if you are right before IPO and you are really trying to protect future investors' investment and the confidence that the market have, and you do need to start to look a little differently at things, and that's where you get into more of a steady state. And I think the statement of work model, it may be an expansion of business opportunity like we're in right now with FedRAMP. But you could see transitioning to, all right, well, we need to be able to staff some operations, and it gets into more of a mass mutual model as you become public, where we just need to keep staff consistent. We need stability in the functions. We need to limit the risk we might have of a function where we have attrition and we have no backfill for those roles. And hey, we need to keep our SLAs and ultimately the security operations kind of going as the business needs us to do. So sum it up, I think there's different stages that leaders have to make different choices, and at different times the projects and the work look different, and that statement of work model, an investment model conversation can be different, needs to be different, and how you communicate that ultimately ties back to, are you supporting the growth of the business based on current objectives, or are you really trying to pay down the risk that the business has? And it's always a balance.
I was gonna say, we're both constantly, and both together. And yeah, I love the way you laid that up first of all, everybody says, oh, chief information security officers. Like, there's tons of different types of chief information security officers, depending on whether it's, like you're saying, public, private, size, different things. And so, yes, breaking it down between private and public, I love that. And also, it just, as you're talking, I just can't help but think to myself, my gosh, I know, and yet I forget just how important it is for you, leaders like you, to be in this chaos, trying to, turn it to a lot more stability and support. Need to be able to be confident with the fact that you can find these people and get these people on staff in a certain time and move, and I think people forget about that, as how important it is. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just What is that about, Dan? Why do so many people
Finance
struggle?
doesn't, and they definitely add attrition numbers into the planning.
Mm,
But
yeah,
I think the reality is it's so hard to find that right fit
yeah,
for it comes back to the people, talent, and
yeah,
finding someone that's right for the org. Also, the timing of finding the individual that might be right that isn't looking, and uh,
yeah,
it
yeah.
it
It's
it, it becomes something that you shouldn't have to worry about. But when you're in the middle of it, it is something you worry about almost every day. So
yeah.
it's challenging.
Well, it makes me feel good that you don't personally worry.
That, but we'll run with it. Yeah.
I'm just kidding, and not. I really love the education. I think we could do a whole series on this, Dan, of that maneuvering the business to, higher productivity with revenue, as well as managing risk and how to really sell what needs to get done, because I see you go into organizations and just get shit done. And I also see a lot of people saying, I'm not, people aren't able to listen. So we'll have to do another LinkedIn live and we'll talk about the art of persuasion of a CISO and how do you do it? How do you lay it up? How do you, without using any real information? So something to think about. I appreciate you so much. I think we've covered to say to everybody, don't be afraid to think about contractors or SW as strategic team members. It can be done. Dan's been doing it now for, well, at least 8 years with me, I know, and Cyber SN and certainly lots of others. And so let's recognize that we've got options here for sure. Thank you, Dan, for all your wisdom and sharing and knowledge. We appreciate you.
No problem. Thanks for having me, and we'll catch up soon.
Yes, love to. Take care. Bye.